to everyone, and thank you for joining. This is our second week of interview and resume prep with Riot staff. So thank you for joining, and we are excited. We did up the participants. So if you have friends that are looking to join or anyone that would like to still join, we are not limited to our 100 that we were last week. We made sure that we had numerous people that were asking, like, how can I get in here? So we made sure that we did cover that. But today we are specifically going to talk about as far as interview prep and making sure that you are ready and set up for the interview. So we have some A1 rioters here with us today to give us feedback and make sure that you all are set up for success. It's going to be something similar to what we did last week, but want to make sure that you all are getting the best feedback possible. Please, as we always say, drop your questions in the chat. I will be taking note of those. We will go ahead and do a Q&A at the end, and we will make sure that everybody gets the information that is needed. Also, this is a recorded session. So this will be sent out to anybody that registered for this event, even if your friends couldn't join, or maybe somebody joined late and didn't get all the information. You will get all of this in a package one way or another. And I am going to pass it off to Victoria.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justice. Can everyone hear me? Excellent. Well, we're thrilled to be here with you today. As Justice mentioned, this is our second workshop in our November career series with all of you. Today, we're really going to hone in on networking, right? So you've heard of networking before, but what exactly is it? Why do we network? And how can you level up your LinkedIn profile to really make meaningful connections? So I'm Victoria Sanchez, and I'm the Diversity Community Program Manager at Riot. I use she, her pronouns, and with me, joining me today are some incredible Riot staff members, Christina, Christian, and Nathan. Can you introduce yourself to all of us? Tell us your preferred pronouns, what your title is, and maybe like how long you've been working at Riot.
I can go first, I guess. I'm Nathan, he, him. I'm a security engineer at Riot, so I do a lot of defensive security. I've been at Riot for about 5 months.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great today. My name is Christian Rafael Spiro, he, hims. I've been working at Riot for about the last 6 months, and I'm a program manager, so helping with programs, initiatives around the internship experience. Now pass it to the amazing Christina.
Hi, everybody. Christian's one of my favorite people, so I just like being shamelessly on panels with Christian. But hi, everybody. I'm Christina Vomber, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a senior program manager on Central Tech, so I work on internal podcasts, speaker series, really fun content, and I'm really happy to be here. I've been at Riot for about 3 months, so I like how we have a little nice waterfall cascade of like 6 months, 5 months, 3 months. So yeah, we're all pretty new here, but it's great to connect with y'all, and I'm really passionate about mentorship and giving back. So yeah, I'll hand it back over to Victoria.
Awesome. So you've heard from our rioters. We're going to be here to help you level up your networking skills and knowledge, as I mentioned. Just a quick pulse check. How many of you have networked before? Maybe. Okay, I see a lot of hands. A lot of you have networked before. Excellent. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile? Okay, a lot of you. Excellent. So really, no matter where you're at in your networking journey, we've designed this workshop with the content that you need to level up, and it's going to be facilitated by all of us. So we have a special breakout room activity, so we can definitely, you can definitely consult with us on those LinkedIn profiles. As Justice mentioned, we encourage you to ask questions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just feel free to drop them in the chat. Justice is going to collect them, and she will pose them to our rioters at the end of the workshop. But before I pass it over to Christian and the Riot team to kick us off with the content, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Riot Games. For those of you who are at our last session, this might be a little bit of a review, or for any of those that are already pretty familiar with Riot Games, this will be hopefully you'll learn a little something new from it. But just bear with me. I'm going to share my screen and then I'll pass it over to Christian. Awesome. Can everyone see my screen? How's
Yes, we
that?
can.
Awesome. So Riot Games was founded in 2006 to be the most player-focused game company in the world, right? So we wanted to make it better to be a player. So we put our players really at the center of every single decision that we make. Riot has really been at the forefront of its multi-decade games, the esports industry with our League of Legends World Championships, which just wrapped up this past weekend in San Francisco, if any of you had the opportunity to go. Snaps, I know Christian has, and many other of our partnerships and visibility in our broader media and community and merchandise. Our first game that we released was League of Legends, but ever since then, we've really expanded our portfolio to so many more games like Teamfight Tactics, the Legends of Runeterra, and Valorant. We've even expanded our reach into entertainment with our Emmy Award-winning show Arcane. How many of you have ever played Riot's games or watched Arcane? Drop your favorite Riot games in the chat so we can see. Awesome. I see them coming all in. So Riot's headquarters is in LA, but we have so many different offices globally. We have over 4,000 Rioters and 20 plus global offices. This year, we've been certified as a great place to work. So I'd really like to give you this virtual tour of the LAX office, but for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat so you can get a virtual tour via this awesome video that was made. And it looks like that's going to play. Oops. So how many of you are a part of clubs and organizations at your school? Here at Riot, we have, and we refer to them lovingly as our RIGs, or our Riot Inclusion Groups for short. And these are really supportive communities based on their shared goals that help members of each group to create a sense of belonging. And each of these RIGs has its own unique mission. We often get asked if you need to be a gamer to work at Riot, and the short answer is no, you don't need to be a gamer to work at Riot. There are certainly roles that require gaming knowledge, but there are so many roles at Riot that don't require it. So for our non-gaming roles, it's really important that you have player empathy. All of the decisions, as I mentioned, that we make are based around our players, so that player empathy is really going to help you no matter what role you're in at Riot. If you're interested in interning at Riot, we are currently still accepting applications for the 2023 summer internship program. If you have any specific questions about that, I'm happy that we have Christian on the line to answer any of your more specific questions. But with that said, I'm really excited to pass the mic over to Christian to talk a little bit more about what networking is, who you can network with, and why it is that we network.
Thank
I'll
you.
pass it over to you, Christian.
Thank you so much. Next slide, please. I think, if we're here in this space right now, one of the biggest things we talk about is like the word networking. And before diving into the topic, the philosophy, what we define networking and what it means, I want to hear from y'all in the chat. So when you think of the word networking, what comes to mind? Just throw it in the chat. Connections, yes. Having a conversation, learning about people's experience. Connections, a lot of connections, yes. Cold messaging and emails, building relationships and maintaining them, yes. Handing out a business card like in the movies, for sure. Perfect. Establishing connections, awesome. So, and keep writing your responses in the chat, but you probably heard those two major themes that I was reading out, right? One of them was connections and the other one was building relationships. In a nutshell, yeah, that's pretty much what networking is. Networking is taking the actions or taking the steps to interact with other folks, with other individuals, to exchange knowledge or information, right? So if you're reaching out to someone to learn more about the gaming industry, you're engaging in networking. But I think what's really important to take away from this is you're not only learning more about a specific industry or a specific product, you're also learning more about the individual, right? So when I reach out to someone and want to network with them, I'm listening more, I'm hearing about their story, their journey, and how they have navigated their experience within the industry. So the one last thing I want to ask the group is in the chat, can you please share with me and with the larger group why networking is important? So we just defined networking. Why is networking important? Learning from others? Yes. Personal growth? Yes. To learn and to get jobs? Yes, yes. To have context? Yes. To have insight? Yes. A personal safety net? Yes. Collaborations, understand different perspectives. Yes, yes, yes to all of this goodness. Keep writing it in that chat. If you had to put it in three major buckets, right, of the benefits of networking, think of it as this. The first bucket is to have better social and cultural understanding of a field and industry, right? So as individuals mentioned, learning more, this could be a great example of learning from someone else, their story, their path of life of a specific industry. The second bucket, which is a bucket I lean towards more, is building community, building mentorship, and building support. So maybe you are in a place where you want to explore and expand your safety net, as someone wrote in the chat, or just want to make connections with others in any industry or experience, right? Forming community is that bucket that will help you along your way. And I think ultimately, which I think I saw one person write it, the other buckets have a better sense of self, right? So when we are speaking with other folks, when we are engaging in dialogue, when we're hearing about people's stories and their journey of life, the more information we take from others, we learn a little bit about ourselves, about the things we like, the things we don't like. That insight we gain shapes our perspective as well. So a few things to keep in mind. Who can I network with? I mean, you can pretty much network with anyone, you know, you can network with, you know, current and former mentors or coaches, guidance counselors, teachers, professors, friends, families, alumni. And right now we're mentioning a lot of folks close to your circle of communication, but you can also think broader in terms of, you know, maybe there's someone who you came across their LinkedIn post and you said, you know what, I appreciate what they posted. I appreciate their experience. I want to reach out to them and network with them. But then the next part is once you identify who you can network, you know, how can you network? And that's everything from attending events, mixers, conferences, being able to engage in different platforms and organizations that can help showcase how to network too. So I know in these slides we hyperlink the game dev map as well as gaming industry events, but just keep in mind there's a lot of resources out there that help create community and showcase the way we can network. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Nathan to talk a little bit about, you know, why is having a LinkedIn important and how is that different than your resume?
Okay, cool. Hey guys, I'm Nathan. So I'm gonna also keep it a little bit collaborative, but I'm curious why you guys think, you know, having a LinkedIn is important and why I guess you would have a LinkedIn and you would give someone your LinkedIn profile versus giving someone your resume. I think that's like one of the most interesting things I think, you know, people need to think about is why would you give someone your LinkedIn and not their, you know, your resume? To highlight things not on your resume, yeah. It's a more personalized version, sure. Background context, yep, definitely. Shows more skills, experiences. Yep. I'll give you a little story too for me. So I went to college not too long ago, believe it or not, about like 2 years ago. And I went to college with one of my friends. He also was, you know, in the security field, security engineering. And we sort of lost contact, unfortunately. And I moved, you know, to LA. And recently I was just going through LinkedIn and I saw that he is moving to LA. In fact, the same city I'm in. And we're both in the same field. So through LinkedIn, we were actually able to reconnect and, you know, be able to talk also about, you know, our profession and obviously network a lot more. But it's a great way also just to like reconnect with people as well. So let's see what else. Show your job story and personal achievements. Yep. Easy way to communicate. Sounds good. Yeah, let's look at the next slide. So yeah, why is your LinkedIn profile important? I think this is 100% like really important. It grabs the attention of employers and recruiters. The amount of times that I've applied for positions and then later I see a recruiter has viewed your LinkedIn profile. A lot of recruiters look at your LinkedIn profile, like people have mentioned, to get more background about you as a person and what you've done. Look at more of your detailed skills. Also, just to see that okay, this person is like exists. There is some connections and references and even endorsements as well. So the second one is having great networking opportunities. Like I sort of mentioned, I sort of, met a few people that I haven't talked to since college, and I found out they're living close to me. I think the other thing too is sort of like when you see posts on the feed about maybe certain conferences nearby, or maybe job openings, or you're noticing certain people in certain tech and technologies that you might be interested in, you can easily message them and, sort of just do, so someone said like a cold DM and sort of start talking to them. And that's just a great way to meet people and interact. And who knows, that might end up leading to something else that's beneficial in the future to you. But it's just a great way to learn. And as sort of mentioned earlier, builds trust and credibility, right? LinkedIn is a lot more, because you have connections and because you have like endorsements and you're connecting with other people, it's very easy for people to actually do sort of more in-depth checks on you than you would see sort of in a resume. So yeah, that's the main stuff I'd sort of like to talk about. Moving into like profile tips. I'll be honest, my LinkedIn is not the best, and whoever's in my group will probably get to see it. But I think it's really important that your profile picture, something that I think I did okay in, is sort of like somewhat semi-professional. So it sort of looks nice, it shows you clearly. Because it's pretty much the first thing anyone sees, right? Is sort of the picture of you. So you want to make sure that that sort of represents you in the way that you would like other people to view you. And the headline, it's not just like, as it says here, more than just your job title. A security engineer, for me, it would probably maybe be like where you work, maybe some type of your name, your pronouns. So a little bit more detail so people can understand, a little bit more about you. And a summary. So this is something that I think is very, really personal, I'd say. So I think a lot of people have their own values and ethics and things that they sort of believe in. And I think when you have a summary in LinkedIn, that's really your chance to really like talk about, maybe your philosophy or what you believe in, your values, to really get that out there. It's not just only about, talking about what you're good at and maybe your technology stack, if you're a coder or maybe you're in business and your internships. It's not really just fully about that, but it's more about talking about you as a person and what you want, what you're passionate about. And then obviously you've got the other things, which is, your current and past places of employment and job titles, and avoid buzzwords. So I think this was an interesting one, because when you're in technology, you think about, oh, I need to like mention a bunch of coding languages, or I need to mention, maybe a bunch of like Microsoft Office tools, or maybe like video editing tools. And I think it's important to mention those, but you need to make sure that you're giving a lot of context, because it's important for people to understand, how are you using that tool? To what level are you using that tool? Like what project were you using it on? If you just say something like maybe like Python, or, something like, I think Adobe Premiere, again, I'm not a a video editor or art person that much, but if you just mention that, you're not really saying how you used it or applied it. That doesn't really give the same value to, anyone else, like a recruiter or anyone else really looking at your profile. And then follow LinkedIn pages of organizations, companies, communities. And the reason why I think this is important is because you'll end up finding interesting things, maybe nearby events, that conferences. Like for instance, I'm going to a conference in San Diego that I'm just found out from some other people who I networked with. That is going to be, I'm really excited to like, go to that and meet other people in the scene. But it's just about like, finding other opportunities to essentially grow and learn, because, you're only going to be able to learn so many things from yourself and your team. So having a bigger network and be able to talk to other people will essentially help you like think about things from different perspectives that you may have not thought about before. Request recommendations, like I said, that just really helps, showing validity of yourself, right? So when recruiters look at your profile, they're like, okay, this person said this. and sharing relevant content from your LinkedIn feed. So like, to me, this is like, if you're again a coder, maybe like a GitHub, if you're maybe do some web design or art, maybe some type of portfolio, so people can sort of look in and see more examples. With that, we can move on to the next thing. So profile photo. Like I said earlier, I think it's really important the profile looks like you. It sort of represents you. It should be a high res photo. Don't want something too pixelated. And it should really be showing your face a lot. And it just should be you. And I would say, again, like I said, as it says here, choose the right expression. Choose an expression that shows, who you are, maybe you're smiling, happy. And I think that, in my opinion, obviously distracting backgrounds is not good. Something somewhat simple and plain that, again, puts emphasis on you and your face. And use filters wisely and take photo in a soft, natural light, and wear what you normally wear to work. So with that, I am going to pass it off to Christina, who will go more into LinkedIn profile tips in summary section.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. You and Christian gave such great nuggets of wisdom, and I'm really happy because I feel like the cadence of this presentation nicely stacks on each other. But I will say, yeah, definitely in terms of like what you're actually doing on your profile, I know Nathan talked about like photos and your headlines and things like that. So your summary is really just that text box that kind of gives context to who you are as a person. So combining all the awesome things that Christian and Nathan have already said about networking, you really want to use this space to speak to your tangible skills. And you might notice on the screen, there's a short example 1 and there's a longer example 2. And both of these are correct. It's open-ended, it's up to you. It's how you feel comfortable communicating and writing. I personally am a writer. I like to talk a lot. I like to write a lot. So mine is definitely closer to example 2, but by no means is this the standard or the expectation. It's really up to you and kind of how you feel is best to communicate yourself. So yeah, let's head on over to the next slide, please, Victoria. Thanks. So we're going to go over some LinkedIn examples, and I am on one of these. I did not just put myself on these slides. Like I was nominated, so it wasn't like I shamelessly put myself here. So we can go to the next one, please. Yeah, so this is my LinkedIn profile. This is what mine looks like. So you can see I have like a really clear photo, like Nathan described, like it's our Riot mugshot. So it's a simple gray background. It's like nice quality, soft lighting. So I've got that. I have my little banner image, which is Senna and some other league champions that are very cool. And I thought it was awesome. So I had that as my banner image. And then as you look down, you can see I have my pronouns. I've got my name. I have a little name pronunciation feature that you can also have, which is pretty cool on LinkedIn. So people can pronounce your name properly. And then you can see my title. So I have Senior Program Manager at Riot Games. And then I even have kind of like a little fun headliney blurb of guiding cross-functional teams and programs to their dream states with a sparkly emoji, because I wanted to give context and flair and not just put program manager at Riot because that felt kind of basic. And as you can see, my summary is very long. It's closer to example 2. And that is, again, by no means the expectation of y'all. I have, if you notice at the top of mine, I have a really quick 1-sentence hit that people will see before they have to click the see more. So that's what everyone will see when they go on my profile. And so it's just, I'm Christina, currently building out exciting and innovative projects and programs at Riot Games to connect our technology teams on a deeper level. And so it's very quick, it's very simple. And I have that so 1, people who network with me can know what I do, and 2, so students or younger folks who want to talk to me also can get a sense of what I do. And then the see more option is what you see underneath that kind of like dashed line. That goes in more depth of like what I actually post, because I create content on LinkedIn. So that touches more on like what content I create, my purpose, my passion, and just kind of like extra little things I like to include in my summary. So again, no means what you need to have, but aiming for 1 strong sentence at the top is usually a very strong way to go. So yeah, we can head on over to the next slide to show y'all what a student sample would look like. And so this is a student sample. And this is a really strong way of communicating your worth and your summary and your title and all this fun stuff as a intern or as someone earlier in their career. Again, I'm mid-senior level, so it might be hard to look at my example and see how you can translate it to your background, but this is a really great example of showing you what you can do. It looks very similar to sample 1 that we showed. So you can see there's the photo. They've got like a headline that's very clearly stating what they're doing. They're seeking a certain internship in a specific industry. They've got like a really clear sample paragraph about what they're doing, what they're majoring in, what they're interested in, and they've got some specialties listed. So This is a really strong student sample. Make sure you're very clear if you're an undergrad student or even a graduate student and you're seeking like an MBA internship, make sure that's explicitly clear in your headline, and that will make it easier for recruiters to speak to you as well. Yeah, and so for this slide specifically, this is another like student sample that's been blurred out for confidentiality purposes. But you can remove the seeking internships if you've already graduated. Make sure you're looking at like LinkedIn pages, you're following those, and be very clear and concise in what your title is and what you're looking for. And it really, really helps recruiters, especially if you put something like this example where they're saying they're seeking a 2023 internship. That way a recruiter will know, oh, this person's actively looking for something right now versus not being sure. I think the other insight here to say as well is like recruiters will be looking and tracking for your engagement, and Christian can definitely hop in here and speak to that as well. But the unicorn language is something that I think the three of us are really interested in, and I'll try to mimic everyone else and make this a little interactive. So what do y'all think unicorn language means? Like, what does that signal to all of you? Put that in the chat because I'm very curious before we talk about it. Soft and creative language. What makes you unique? Things that stand out to recruiters that makes them special. Yeah, these are pretty interesting ones. And so I will say, and keep typing in the chat, but I will say, yes, exactly what Bryson said. Fancy, but no substance. I think that's honestly spot on. That's a great way to say it. It sounds great in theory, but if you say things like, for example, if this intern had, jack of all trades or like master of none in their headline, that might sound really interesting, but it doesn't give me substance about what you're actually doing. Because especially when you're an intern, or early in your career making an industry pivot, you might be very passionate about entering the industry, but you want to be specific and intentional about what you are specifically targeting. Because if you say master of none or jack of all trades, that gives me a very vague and unclear statement of what you're actually focusing on. So when you actually are intentional and you say, hey, I'm focusing on X, Y, and Z, or I'm passionate about X, Y, and Z, now I understand, oh, this person's really interested in program management and they've demonstrated an aptitude in project management tools. I can help them. Versus when you say you're a jack of all trades, I don't really know how to help you because I have a very specialized craft. And Nathan and Christian, I definitely want to hear from y'all as well, because I know we've had discussions offline about what unicorn language looks like for our respective fields.
Yeah, I mean, for context, I used to work in higher ed and after higher ed government. And so I think the best way I can share is like be specific and be direct, right? So if you're thinking about it from a recruiter lens or someone who's looking at your profile, what do you want them to walk away with, right? And if you put vague stuff on your LinkedIn or even on your resume, someone may not be able to comprehend what was the takeaway in that. So the more specific and the more direct you can be, not only helps you, but it helps the people looking at your profile as well. So that's my stance.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you, Nathan? Because
Uh,
I know you had thoughts, especially when you spoke on technical languages. Like I know if I was a software engineer, security engineer, and I'm like, ooh, Python, I'm just gonna throw that on my resume, like Python master. Would you, or like SWE
yeah.
master? You'd be like, what?
So
What are you
I
doing?
think I think it's definitely like really tricky, right? I think like within like software development, there's a lot of different like subcategories, whether it's like machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, maybe just like front end development. So finding that like particular like niche that you sort of fall in, and then even then there's also sub stuff in that. So sort of choosing that and figuring out what think you're trying to specialize in or think you're really interested in and choosing that. I know for me, like I'm more focused on what's called blue teaming, which is more defensive security. So a lot of what's in my LinkedIn or on my resume is stuff related to that. So it really like shows that when people look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I love you said that too, because I think folks might hear of engineering or even technical roles and think, well, I need to have all these fancy, widespread skills
Yeah,
on my
no.
resume. But it sounds like what you're saying is it might actually work against you because you're not being intentional and specific.
Yeah.
And I know Christian put it in the chat, but just to like scream it from the mountaintops, if you're be honest, be specific, and be direct. That is a quote from Christian Raphael, not me, a direct quote that he put in the chat right now, which is fantastic. So yeah, that's kind of the too long, don't read for summaries and crafting your headlines. And I'll pass it on over back to Victoria.
Awesome. So circling back, how do you identify these folks that are in your network, right? We really want to stress to be an investigator, right? As Christian mentioned, these could be pretty much anyone, right? But when you're thinking about really networking and connecting with people in your area of interest, really thinking about professionals in your craft area of interest, maybe even professionals who are in your desired career trajectory, and who are maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 plus years ahead in some way, and getting to know and scan folks' LinkedIn profile and even at their companies, right? So thinking about the Explore Our Team page on different company websites, right? And searching for their names and LinkedIn, maybe jotting down interesting companies or organizations that you're interested in, and then immediately searching for them on LinkedIn. Maybe there are folks that are mentioned in news articles or virtual panels or conferences. Maybe it's a guest speaker who comes into your class. Just keeping tab of all of the folks that you feel compelled and are interested in to learn more about, and scanning their LinkedIn profile to see where they worked before, the companies that they're currently at, even roles that they started their career with, if you're interested in a similar career trajectory. Right. The key here is to really be an investigator, and look for them on LinkedIn. Next here is reach out, right? Thinking about sending a brief but a personal note so that they see that you took the time to actually read their profile and to do your research. Really, the ultimate goal is with networking is that you're trying to increase your opportunities for employment or to learn something new, right? And it really only works if there is a follow-up afterwards. And so sending that brief but personalized note, showing them that you did your research on them, really is a nice personal touch that shows that you've done that, right? And being strategic about who you reach out to and patient, right? Understanding that not everyone is going to respond, and that's okay. There will be someone who will eventually respond to you. I know that Christian right now will be talking a little bit more about what is the difference between a transformational or a transactional approach to reaching out to someone on LinkedIn.
Thank you for the setup. And so the best way I can give this metaphor of like transactional versus transformational, I'm going to take you all to a store. I used to work at a clothing company for 3 years, and this is the best way I think I can explain it. If you ever walked into a store and you're like, I kind of want to buy something, you may have the front host say, hey, what are you looking for? Or welcome to our shop, and just leave it there, right? And then that's pretty much all that you'll probably get, right? In some stores, you may have someone say, hey, how can I help you today? And you may start the dialogue and they're like, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're looking for. Here, let me help guide you and direct you to the right options. I use this example because you can see that kind of in LinkedIn and other social media platforms where transactional is almost like a one and done, right? Like, oh, I'm going to follow you and that is it. Or, hey, I have a quick question, very minimal, that is it, right? What most people should try to aim for is transformational. And what we mean by transformational is when you are reaching out to someone who could be a potential mentor, coach, colleague, friend, you wouldn't want to be cold and just say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z from you, right? You want to open up the dialogue and communication for them to understand why you're reaching out to them, but also how you can create that pathway of a relationship, of trust, of honesty, right? So you'll see here in this little snippet on the PowerPoint that we talk about is that the note actually goes a lot in detail in terms of like, hey, this is who I am. We graduated from the same school. I heard you speak about X topic, and I would love your insights around X, Y, and Z. Happy to stay connected, right? From that short little message, I know at least context where you're coming from, who you are, and why you want to talk to me. So always try to go for transformational relationships in terms of explaining your why you're reaching out to them, what you're hoping to gain, versus like, I'm just going to send a follow and not say anything at all, right? Knowledge is power in this context.
Awesome. And with that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the importance of the informational interview. An informational interview is really just an informal conversation with someone working in an area of interest to you. So this is someone that you have connected with on LinkedIn, right? You've identified your contacts and you're interested in having a conversation with them about how it is that they entered into their specific role, and to basically interview them about their current career and their career trajectory. It's important to know that it's not a job interview. It's really just an opportunity to get more information about the realities of working within a particular field, industry, or position. So really the two main benefits here for an informational interview or an informational chat is to really gather information and to build your network, right? What do you talk about during these chats? You'll want to share who you are, what your interests are, talk a little bit more about your relevant experiences and your strengths, and what you really want to get out of this call, right? So here is the example. I'm really hoping to learn more about what it's like to work in this industry, right? I'm thinking about exploring internship opportunities for the fall and trying to identify organizations that feel like a good fit for me. You'll want to express gratitude for the time that they're taking with you, right? And here are some sample questions that you can ask, right? So I would come up with a list of 5 or 6 questions that you want to ask them, right? So how did you become interested in this field? Could you describe what a typical week in your job looks like? What are the most important skills that are required? What other organizations besides your organizations are doing this work? Who is leading the field? If you were in my shoes, what steps would you take to prepare to enter into this field? Given my interest in games, right? Is there anyone in your network who you might be willing to connect me with? So having a set of questions coming into your informational interview will only strengthen the conversation that you have and make it even more meaningful and transformational, as Christian mentioned, right? And finally, it's super, super important that you follow up and express gratitude with a thank you note for them taking the time, right? And thinking about continuously following up potentially with your contacts if you're applying anywhere, making sure that you stay in touch and update them on your successes and challenges. I would say here, use your judgment on the kinds of challenges that you do express and your successes, right? But they really are invested in your success in that way if they have taken the time to connect with you and to be able to have that informational interview call with them, right? And I'll pass it over to Christian here to talk a little bit more about, again, thinking about what it means to have that transformational approach in following up.
Thank you, Victoria. And plus one and co-sign on everything that's been said. And one thing that you'll hear throughout this whole conversation is like the level of intentionality and the level of care. So after you have decided and chose who you want to do informational interviews with, you've had the conversation, everything has happened, how do you follow up? And I think the best 3 ways to think about it is, your first bucket is just say thank you, right? Thank you for taking the time, for investing in me, in this conversation, etc. And then also, what shows an active listener is someone who can mention things that we talked about, right? So it's not just, oh yeah, I heard you talk, have a great day, but like, point out some of the things that we talked about and what you walked away with. And I think to what was mentioned earlier, include, what are you going to do moving forward, right? Whether that's you considering applying to opportunities, whether that's you wanting to stay in contact with them, what's the end message you want that person to walk away with and to have that in mind for them. So say your thank you, highlight aspects of the conversation, and then what do you want them to walk away with? And then I'm going to pass it back to my amazing colleagues, Victoria and Christina, to talk more.
Awesome. The last thing we really wanted to mention was that it's so important to stay organized when you're having informational interviews, when you're thinking about applying for jobs, but especially when you're in the networking process and thinking about how you're going to organize all of your contacts, right? The easiest way is to open up an Excel sheet or a Google sheet and to organize them this way. This is just an example tracker to keep your contacts organized. But I'm going to pass it over to Christina, who also has another excellent recommendation for how to stay organized using this tool that I had never heard of before and that I'm definitely going to use for my own future research.
Yeah, definitely. So there's definitely the Excel sheet, which is kind of like the standard way of tracking it. And then there's Teal, which is really pretty and cool. And I'm just biased because I'm a program manager and I like pretty things that make tracking easy. And so the cool thing about this is there's a job tracker, which looks like this. And I think some folks in the chat are already saying yay Teal, so they might already know. But it's a really great way to track your jobs. It's what actually I used when I was interviewing to get my role at Riot. It was a really effective way for me to track like where I was interviewing and what I was doing and all of this other type of content, especially because job hunting can get stressful, or if you're interviewing for different companies and you're talking to different folks, you're trying to figure out, how do I feel about this company? Where is this company located? Have I applied? Am I in progress of applying to the job? And it's free, so it doesn't cost any money to use the job tracker. They also have other things too, like they have a resume builder, and I believe there's even a feature now where it stacks against the job description. So when you're applying to a job, it can actually parse your resume and like tell you how much of a percentage you have with replying to that job. It'll tell you like, oh, like you have a 60% match for the job based on the job description. It'll give you some fun little nuggets of information. But the job tracker is great. There's I only got a small screenshot of it, but there's like additional columns that you can have too that show like gauging your excitement from a 5-star level of like, how excited are you about this company? Places for you to add notes, to add contact information, people you've talked to. It's definitely something very valuable. And I know as well, like from a development perspective, a career development perspective, it's a very valuable way to track and continuously monitor how you're feeling about an interview, what you're thinking about an interview, and making sure that you're keeping yourself accountable for applying and redoing your resume and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's a really cool option. I know we're going our breakout sessions next, so.
Awesome. So with that, we are going to take a couple of minutes. Each of you will be distributed into a breakout room with one of our rioters, and we're going to review LinkedIn profiles. So we've enabled the feature so that if you want to share your screen, you can share our screen with us. If you feel more comfortable dropping into the chat your link for your LinkedIn profile, we're happy to review it that way. But this is just really an opportunity to get LinkedIn consultations with a rioter. From there, we'll go ahead and come back into the main space where we'll do a brief debrief and then head into Q&A. But feel free to ask rioters any of your burning questions about your LinkedIn profiles. We'll try to review as many as possible, and then we'll come back into the main space. How does that sound?
Awesome.
Okay,
See you all on the flip side.
I will stop sharing and send you into your breakout rooms in just a moment.
Oh, sorry. I think I joined this room by accident, but when I hit leave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yes.
Cameron. Do you have a breakout room?
I did, but then I had to go, so I hit left. But I wanted to say thank you so much for having this meeting. I have to go right now.
Of course. Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
Cameron. And join us for the next one. Let us know how we can support you. Connect with us on LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah. Definitely will. I'm currently like, well, I don't want to get like too involved in myself, but I am like doing one question I had quick briefly before I go.
Yeah.
I was planning on doing a lot of posts to promote my game I'm releasing on Steam in the next couple weeks. Do posts help? Like, do recruiters ever look at like the posts you put on LinkedIn, or is that something that like they see and they take into account, like how
Yeah,
active you
absolutely.
are?
Yeah, they told us. They said that there's a feature on their end where they're able to rate and look at your engagement on LinkedIn. So they'll look at like who you've liked posts on, like the kinds of organizations that you're involved with, your own posts. So all of those metrics are tracked by our recruiters. So it looks really good, especially if it's in a relevant industry or field that you're interested in. So if games is your industry, Cameron, like that looks really good to recruiters.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, I'm definitely gonna start trying to be more active on LinkedIn. That's something that I just haven't, like, I'm just not that type of person that posts too much. So I'm gonna just try
Yeah.
to like daily or probably weekly, just try to get a few posts out here and there.
That sounds great, Cameron. And
Yeah,
keep us
thanks.
posted on your journey and connect with us on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. Can I send you a connect right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Cool, cool. Thank you.
Of
Uh,
course. Take care.
yeah, you too. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Excellent. It looks like we are all back. I know that was very brief and short. Hopefully, I think some of us will be able to stay for a little bit after. So if you have any other lingering questions about your profiles, we're happy to answer them. But with that, I'll pass it over to Justice for some Q&A. We've collected your questions.
Hello, yes. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining on. I know these are very quick sessions. We intended for them to be quick because we know that you all are probably having numerous things going on, whether that's finals, I don't know what time it is. Is it finals or midterms time? You can drop it in the chat to let me know. But knowing that there is so much going on, midterms, exactly. So a lot going on, including, the holiday weekend coming up. These Riot Fireside Chats for the month of November are very quick, but they are every week. And every week, you are getting the information for people that you can directly connect with. So a lot of the questions that were sent in for the Q&A was like, hey, if I'm a UI UX designer, if I'm a graphic designer, if I'm a content creator, how can I connect with somebody at Riot to make sure that my resume, my LinkedIn, my cover page looks well? This is the platform to see that and to connect with those people. So essentially who you have right here in front of you are the people that will be reviewing your resume and making sure that you are qualified to come in to the Riot team. So right now is the time to ask questions, but even outside of that, every tip that they're giving you is the way that you then connect back. We always are very big, especially in the community team, on, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So going into their LinkedIns, messaging them the exact way that they said, hey, I saw you in the Riot Fireside Chat. So awesome. Thank you so much for giving the feedback. I'm a UI UX designer. This is what I focus in. Here's my resume. Would love to connect with you soon. Things like that is how you make sure that that relationship is continued after this type of quick interview resume process and even networking process. But want to make sure that you all know that we are listening to you. We do see your questions, but this is intentional for you to be able to go back to these rioters and say, hey, this is what we talked about. I know you referenced this, and this is how I see me fitting in. So moving on to our questions. First and foremost, in the interview, how will soft skills for production, project management, or any other related fields get evaluated? And in really big industries, such as Riot Games, how does communication between those different departments actually solidify my role in being able to apply for this? So once again, how does soft skills actually benefit me in getting evaluated? But also, how do the different departments within bigger companies communicate to ensure whoever they are hiring is valuable for the role that they're looking for?
I can talk about the soft skills and how that can be evaluated. And so I would say the first thing someone ever taught me was do not call it soft skills because they're actually hard skills. Call them hypercognitive skills, if anything, right? Being aware of how to communicate with others, social interactions, how to support one another. So call it hypercognitive skills, and people will be like, what type of skills are you talking about? I mean, like, oh, it sounds, skills to help people. But the best way you'll probably see this evaluated in an interview is, Tell me about a difficult time that you had with a coworker and how you overcame an obstacle together, right? Tell me how you work on teams. Share with us your biggest strength on a team, right? So any question that is associated with like another person, right? Or in a scenario base, those are usually evaluating your hypercognitive or soft skills. And then happy to pass it to a colleague that wants to talk more about that too.
Yeah, I would also say that as far as like the really big industries and how does communication between different departments look like, when you're applying for a particular craft, right, and you're thinking about how your skills relate to your particular craft, there are teams of folks at Riot that are interviewing you for your particular craft, right? And those teams are all evaluating you on different skill sets. And so at the end of the day, they'll meet and they'll come together and talk about you, and essentially evaluate you, right, on how it is that you performed in each of the interviews, right? And so I think that's also something important to know, that there are different components to the interview. So something that I didn't know, and that I think a lot of folks, especially for those who are applying for internships, are kind of surprised about, is that we really look for folks who know Riot's values and who align with Riot's values, and the interview process really takes that into consideration, right? So getting to know Riot's values and moments and experiences that you've had that align with Riot's values, right? I think is also really important. And we're definitely going to go over that in our interviewing workshop that we're having with Sam from Christian's team next week, because it is an important part of the interview process and something that we evaluate you on, right? And even if you're applying for jobs outside of Riot, really getting to know the company values is going to be important in the interview process itself, right? But knowing that there are different components to the interview process with really big industries like Riot Games is going to be important to your success in the interview process, right? And then I don't know if Nathan or Christina have anything else to add.
I do not. Sorry, I was answering some questions in
Awesome.
chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw a couple
great.
tech questions and I was like, go ask Nathan. So I was like, I don't know.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. So next question. Do LinkedIn learning courses help build a stronger LinkedIn profile? And are they beneficial to do so, especially in large numbers with a variety of topics?
Yeah, I can take this one really quick, and then Christian, I'd like to hear your perspective on this too, if that works. But I know in terms of skill assessments, I will say before I ended up at Riot, I had taken a lot of LinkedIn learning certifications, like through LinkedIn Learning. And if you're not aware, you can actually get a LinkedIn Learning license for free through most universities, your career center, your local public library. If you ask one of those people, they probably will tell you that you can get a LinkedIn Learning license for free. So if you don't want to spend money for it, you can ask those folks and get one. But I took a lot of those. So I've taken a few for project management. I've taken a few for like diversity and inclusion trainings, like things like that. And there's also skill assessments that you can take. So you can take LinkedIn Learnings, which are sort of like virtual little videos you can watch and get a certificate after taking quizzes at the end. And then there's the skill assessments, which you can take for technical skills. So I was actually in a full stack coding bootcamp. And so we were encouraged to take like technical skill assessments on LinkedIn. And those actually show up on your profile as like a little check mark badge of like, hey, this person has a skill assessment. And I do think it helps in terms of like LinkedIn recruiting. I do think that recruiters will look at that and say, oh, this person has like a foundational understanding of JavaScript or a foundational understanding of, C# or Python, but it's pretty much as it sounds like. That's all it's going to get you. I don't think it would by any means guarantee you a job anywhere. I think it's more of like, hey, this person has passed the bare minimum threshold of knowing this language or this skill. But Christian, I want to hear definitely from you on that, and then Nathan too from like the technical side.
I co-sign +1. I think what I always tell people is like knowledge is power, right? So the more you know, it won't hurt you, right? So if you are looking at courses, whether they're Google, LinkedIn, etc., I say absolutely sign up if you have the time and bandwidth for them, and walk away with either refine knowledge or something new. Showcasing it on your LinkedIn, we had someone who had their certifications on there, and I said, absolutely, like have those listed. And to Christina's point, it helps a recruiter at least have the foundation knowledge of like, yes, this person understands X, Y, and Z at minimum, or has explored this topic.
Yeah, so going further in that in terms of like a more software role, I personally say that like the reason why you'd want to be like going more into like courses or certifications is that you're looking to do something that which your university does not currently provide. Because in my opinion, most of the time when you're taking classes, like maybe I see some of you on your LinkedIn, you're like computer programmers, so you've got data structures, object-oriented programming. Those are like really important classes that all recruiters will look at, and algorithms. But maybe you want something that's a little bit more, again, like really you're interested in data science or security or machine learning, and you want more than what your university provides, or you want something very specific. Maybe you want something to do with cloud. Then in those situations, going and maybe looking at Coursera or Amazon has a bunch of certifications and like other stuff like that, and looking to get those, that would make sense. And that those are definitely, I would say, difficult and time consuming, but they'll definitely, put a really big mark on your resume, and recruiters will definitely notice that.
Awesome. So even going down to more LinkedIn question, other than posting about recent accomplishments, are there any other recommendations for types of posts that you all should be posting or we should be posting on our LinkedIns?
I don't know. I guess I'm a content creator now. It's kind of weird. I don't really like describing myself as that, but people keep telling me that's what I am. But I guess that's what I am. I feel very weird about that title. But I will say, like, don't do it because you feel like you have to. Like, the only reason I honestly started was because I made a promise to myself that if I ended up at my dream company, I would spend like a dedicated portion of my position and my power and privilege to help other people get into the industry. And yeah, exactly what Christian said, like post what you want the world to know. And I wanted people to know how I got to Riot. I wanted people to understand that if you didn't come from a STEM background, you could make it. If you came from a non-gaming background, you could make it. I just wanted to broadcast that, honestly, and that just felt authentic to me. Yeah, I don't know, Christian. Christian also posts content on LinkedIn, so
Yo, I snap because
I'm shoving the spotlight away from me now.
No, Christina's right? I think like the biggest thing is like if there's things that you want to post on LinkedIn, go for it, right? And I appreciate Christina sharing her story as being a content creator because, at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, what do I want to post and what do I want the world to share? For me, I'm a PhD candidate. I've gone through a lot of different industries, and I just want the world not to make the same mistakes that I did, or to let them know, hey, you are seen, you are visible, you're not alone. So again, do what you want to, like, post what you want to post respectfully, and as long as you're good with it at the end of the day, like, that's what you're posting.
And so this, even after hearing that, I just want to know for myself, because there is one last question, but just for us to understand. So there are so many different social platforms that we are connecting off of. That could be Twitter, that could be Instagram, that could be Facebook, of course, our LinkedIns, but knowing that, and you might cover it in later sessions, but what does that differentiation look like? Yes, of course, we know the basics, right? Like I'm not going to post my, like flirty pics on LinkedIn to say, hey, come hire me. That's one section. But there might be some people that have like a business profile on Instagram or a business profile on Twitter. So if they have these type of things in different social realms, what would you say specifically to LinkedIn should they be posting?
Christine, oh, sorry, I saw you unmute. I was going to be my fault. Full transparency in this space, I'm an artist, so I do commissions outside of my full-time job. And so one thing you'll realize with my LinkedIn is that it's actually the photo of what I use for my Instagram. However, I will say like LinkedIn has a feature where you can do LinkedIn business. So you can tie everything back together. You can post things on that business account. And so it is all together. But if you're like, on my personal profile, I want to post about my business, why not, right? Nothing's going to stop you. But LinkedIn does have an option where if you do have a business or want to have like a nonprofit, a commission page, you name it, you can tie LinkedIn business to that, whatever you're using outside, like Instagram.
But ultimately, what we're saying is LinkedIn is strictly professional, right? So for everyone that is on this call, LinkedIn is the place that you go to network for jobs, internships, scholarships, whatever it is that you're looking for in the professional realm. So essentially, it shouldn't look identical. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it shouldn't look identical to your Twitter, to your Instagram, to any, even if you do have business profiles in these other social realms, the LinkedIn profile should be the utmost professional, question mark.
I think it depends on how we define professional. I think people are being, and by this, I don't mean like going and posting, like if you're having a night out with your friends. What I mean is,
Right.
to be explicitly clear, what I mean is people talking, being vulnerable about their mental health or about struggles that they faced in certain industries. Like I think to that extent, in terms of quote, quote, professionalism. And I think folks might think of professionalism differently, but I think at least on LinkedIn, there's definitely more barriers being broken down of people being open and vulnerable about struggles they've faced in the industry, you know, mental health, like that type of stuff. I think there's definitely more of a space for it, but obviously like do not go on LinkedIn probably and post about what you did on Friday night with all your friends. Like maybe not the space for that. Like I'm happy for you, but maybe don't post it on LinkedIn. I mean, you can, I guess, I don't know, but I guess you'll have to face the consequences if there are any of that.
Awesome. Okay. So lastly, last question. What are your thoughts on the different type of blurbs that you write on LinkedIn for each experience? I know the specific quote. I know it's important to be specific on LinkedIn, but what if you're open to more than one role when job hunting?
Yo, I got this one when I was job searching. So on your LinkedIn, there is a feature where you go to open. For anyone who's gone to like the open to work feature, you can type in the keywords of roles that you are interested in, right? So for me, when I was looking for a new job, I knew I was interested in onboarding, I was interested in training, professional development, but those are a lot of words, right? That won't fit in my title. So you put that in the search feature as well as what you're open to in terms of work, and you'll start seeing it auto-populate the things that you are using linguistically, right? And the best thing you can do also is like research what the common language is in terms of the field or industry you're interested in, right? What I was doing in higher ed, the terminology looks different than it did for nonprofit and what it did here in the entertainment industry. So just keep that in mind.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say just with blurbs, like we said in the presentation, do how it makes you feel most comfortable. If you're looking at multiple roles, and I know I've talked to folks as well, and I was in this position myself where I was interested in roles that ranged from like entry level to like more mid-senior level roles. As somebody who is fresh out of undergrad, I definitely would say being intentional and tailoring what you actually want to apply to. Don't just apply everything from like an entry level, like a P1 to like a P4, P5, like be intentional and considerate in how you're applying and looking to leverage what you already have. I think just staying true to that and being intentional can help you craft a really strong summary and also make it so the folks that will be interacting with your content or interacting with your profile will understand clearly how they can help you, what you're looking to do, and how they can support you on that journey.
Awesome. Great, great, great. Thank you all so much. So first and foremost, let's give a round of applause and a huge, huge thank you to the Riot team. Thank you all so much for being here, for doing this with us every week, and just making sure that everybody has their questions answered and there is that kind of direct point of contact moving forward as far as networking and making sure that they can reach out to you via LinkedIn or whatever other platforms that we are talking about. So huge, huge thank you. You'll see it in the chat as it's continuously going. Also in the chat, I know that there's a lot going on, but people have dropped in their own LinkedIns. People have said that they are looking for people on their own teams. You know, in this world that we are in, as far as gaming and as far as entrepreneurship, there are people that have their own businesses. They're leading a lot of the gaming and esports conversations on their own campuses. So they still need that. They need this connection. They need the network to be able to build what this will look like in the future. So please go back to the chat, look at it, see if there's anyone that you all connect with directly that you can go ahead, follow them on LinkedIn, send a message. Literally from the last one that we did last week, I have a conversation with somebody that has their own esports startup tomorrow. And it's just because they messaged me directly. They emailed me and said, hey, Justice, I was literally the exact outline that Riot gave. I was on this call. These were the 3 points that I took away from it. This is how I see that me and my nonprofit or my entrepreneur endeavor can connect with community. And I'm like, heck yeah, what you're talking about is exactly what we need. This is something that we should be going ahead and gearing towards. And now we have a conversation, and hopefully they'll be at our event on Saturday. So things like that. And this is why we're having these conversations is a lot of people feel, and even for myself going into the industry, I'm not a huge gamer. I always will be like, I like play Bejeweled and like Candy Crush and Zen Match and Word Search. Like that's as far as I go for myself. Everybody's looking at me right now like, who is this girl on the call? She needs to get off right now. But that is it, that's the realm that I'm in. And because of that, so many people connect with me because of that. They're like, you're in the gaming industry, but you still work. And I'm like, yes, I am an operations manager. I have all of my experience in executive assistance and project management leading to this point. So this is why I'm in this industry. And people will be like, no, I have to be a gamer. No, you have to be passionate about whatever it is that you're doing. And there are so many realms, so many ways, and so many pipelines for you to be able to get into this gaming workforce. And that's what we're teaching you about. So all of the conversations that we've had leading up to this, whether it was project-based or content-based or tournament-based, like this is what the final end-all be-all is for, is to say, no matter what industry you're in, this is how you get your LinkedIn up. This is how you get your networking up, your resume, your cover letter, all of that to make sure that you're even in the running to get this position, internship, job, or scholarship. So I hope everyone was able to grasp something that they were like, yes, this is exactly what I'll do, because I know I grabbed a few things and I'm like, I will do this like today. So thank you so much again to our Riot team. Again, my name is Justice Miranda. So I am Director of Operations for Community. So super shout out to our community team. I have Julian on the call. I have Daria on the call. I have Denise on the call. I have Luis on the call. So all of us literally have been doing this now for 2 years just to make sure that people like ourselves are in the space, know about this and know about the opportunities that we can do to get into the gaming industry. And everybody has a space. You can be a lawyer and still come into the gaming space. So there is no realm that the gaming space does not cover. And we would like for you to know that that is what we want you to get into. $174 billion industry, let's at least get a piece of the pie. That's all I'm saying. Now, what I want to make sure of is that everybody that is a part of this call, you all will be receiving this recording. If you want to send it to your friends, please feel free to do so. We have already actually sent it out for the first recording to the people that signed up. If you did not receive that recording, I'm going to drop in my email here. I do not mind sending it to whoever needs it or a group of people that want to know about that first iteration. But every session we will be recording. Every session we will be doing Q&A. So all of this is preset. The form is there. So even if you want to already submit questions, it's kind of first come, first serve. So making sure that your question is there prior to this event is mandatory, and making sure that you can get your question answered. But I want to make sure that for, I would say, at least the next 10 to 15 minutes, we have a space for students that did not get to either present or wanted to ask direct questions to the rioters. Any of the rioters that can stay, awesome. But it will only be about 10 to 15 minutes. I plan to have this end about 6:35, 6:40 at the latest, but please feel free, stay on. We can ask questions. We can be here as we did last week. But I'm so glad that everyone joined and that we have this amazing team to come and kind of just lead us in the pathway to get into the industry. So super shout out to Riot.
Yeah,
shout out
thank
to
you.
community.
Thanks. Yeah, and I know we have like our QR codes for our LinkedIn. So Victoria,
Yes, let me
can
share
you
those.
share that? Yeah, we'll share that. And then so if people want to connect with us, like y'all can
Awesome.
take pictures of those and like connect with us on LinkedIn. But I know as well for folks that have questions or anything in the chat, like we can definitely answer that here. Or if people want to get LinkedIn feedback, if you can drop your link in the chat or screen share, we can talk about that too. I know I don't have a meeting until like 4, so I've got about like 30 minutes of time.
Awesome. So anybody that does have to hop, like I said, it was intended knowing that you all probably have midterms, probably are preparing for the holiday season. Want to make sure that you all have that time. But if you would like to stay on, please feel free. If not, thank you so much for joining on today's call. This is the second week of our 4-week iteration of our Riot internship, job placement, and resume review workshops for the next month. So super excited to have you next week, and hopefully you have an amazing week for the rest of the week. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I dropped our Discord, scholarships, and job board in the chat. Feel free to go ahead and take a copy and paste those.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Unfortunately, team, I have to hop. Julian is going to stay on with you all, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Justice.
No, thank you,
Justice.
Victoria. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Christian. Thanks, everybody. Nick, Julian, Daria, Denise, Louise, all of our teams. Thank
Yeah,
you all
It takes
so
a village.
much. Thank you all.
It takes a village. Absolutely.
Oh, hey, we're back.
We're back indeed.
I think we were the only ones left. People had a lot of fun questions, so
No problem.
yeah. But thank you so much, Julian, for hosting this. It was really awesome. I appreciate you and the community team so much. But yeah, thanks so much for sticking around. Sorry you were like lurking in the breakout room for so long.
No worries. No, you're fine. This has been great. This is exactly what it's for. I love this. I love doing this. So really the fact that the value has been exchanged is exactly what I love. So no problem.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much for hosting it. And yeah, I'll see y'all later then, I guess, in either the community Discord server or another place on LinkedIn. So yeah, I'll see y'all.
Love it. Love
Bye.
it. Thank you, everyone. Sweet. Well, thank you, everyone. Once again, this is something that I love to do. So no problem of this going over time. Definitely hope that everyone really felt like they were able to extract value from this call and conversation. Again, we'll be here next Tuesday as well. So definitely feel free to invite your friends and make sure you schedule your time to come back. But once again, there's information in the chat. I've shared a number of our socials as well as our job board. So feel free to kind of follow and stay in touch there, as well as, of course, our rioters. Make sure you stay in touch with their LinkedIn. But other than that, if there's nothing else, Victoria, nothing else from your side, we'll go ahead and close it out.
That sounds great. As Julia mentioned, connect with us on LinkedIn. We're really looking forward to connecting with you.
There you have it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Stay amazing.